Let's roll, baby. Welcome in a special Tuesday edition of New York, New York. It's JJ John Jastrzemski. We are live via YouTube, of course, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your outstanding podcasts. And our reaction is to Game 5 of what was an absolute ass-whooping by the New York Knicks. A ho-hum, matter-of-fact, 126-97 win over the Atlanta Hawks. And for the second consecutive game, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the feet were up. This was relaxing. This was therapeutic. And this was highly enjoyable. I like Knick playoff games that are basically over midway through the second quarter. And I know some of you are going to make the argument, JJ, you're trying to mush them. You're trying to put the kibosh on them. You're trying to will bad juju on them. The Knicks are much better than the Atlanta Hawks. And Stefan texted me this right after Game 3. Knicks should be up 3-0 in the series. Who's 1,000% right? This series should be over. It's not. But I credit the Knicks for making adjustments and digging deep when they needed to dig deep. Game 4 on the road in Atlanta, the Cat triple-double game. And this game in particular, to me, it started, and the dominance started with the way the Knicks established Karl Anthony Towns. Am I right or am I wrong? I know you're going to look at Cat's stat line. You're only going to see 7 shots and 16 points. Well, he had 14 of those points in the first half. And Atlanta couldn't guard him. As I have been saying throughout this entire series, they can't answer for Karl Anthony Towns. The other day, it was about his passing ability. It was about the back cuts. It was about all of the wonderful stuff he was doing, filling up the stat sheet. This game was about his scoring, and his scoring allowed the others to go and do their thing and work their magic. Anunoby continues to have an outstanding series. He's gotten after it on the glass. The Knicks in general have gotten after it on the glass. I mean, Towns had 14 rebounds today. Anunoby had 10 rebounds, had a bunch in the first quarter, and he's been active. He's been guarding the wing, and he's been stupendous. He's knocking down the outside shot. And then the second half of this game, it was the Jalen Brunson show. But you know what was great about this performance of the Jalen Brunson show? 39 points on only 23 shots. Incredibly efficient from the field. 15 of 23 from the field for Jalen Brunson. Absolutely stupendous. You know what else was absolutely stupendous? The Knicks defense. And Mike Brown took a lot of shit after the Knicks lost Game 2. I roasted him for his rotations. Game 3, not getting a shot off at the end of regulation. Bad look for the head coach. You know what's a good look for the head coach? Making adjustments. Look at what C.J. McCollum has done in the last 2 games. He's been a non-factor. C.J. McCollum, who roasted the Knicks over the first 3 games of this series, he had 6 points tonight. He was 3 of 10 from the field. And I got news for you. If C.J. McCollum is only going to go and give Atlanta 6 points and is going to be 3 of 10 from the field, they have no chance. Because he's got to be the guy to get them going within the half court. They can't score in the half court. They can't. That's why you see Quinn Snyder consistently trying to tell them, push the pace, push the pace, push the damn pace, because that's the only way they could score. They don't have the shooting, and they don't have the explosiveness. And the Knicks defense has played a big role in that. I credit Anunoby. I credit Josh Hart. I think Cat has been assertive and has gotten after it defensively. And then you got to get to that Knicks bench. There's 2 guys in particular that deserve a lot of love here. One, Jose Alvarado. Jose Alvarado in the last 2 games has been a major difference maker. He had 12 points. He was 4 of 7. He was all over the place. Playing with confidence, playing off the Madison Square Garden crowd. I thought you got great minutes out of him, and I thought you got great minutes out of Jordan Clarkson. It's crazy to look at Jordan Clarkson as like this grinding glue guy, getting down and dirty. Like, if that's the case, then I credit the evolution, because he was out of the rotation. Now he found himself back in a rotation, and those 2 guys have played a big role in this thing. But listen, my point at the end of Game 4 remains the same at the end of Game 5. If the Knicks go and play their game on Thursday night in Atlanta, this series is over. It's over. Because Atlanta does not have the answers. What's changing for the Hawks? They adding some size that I don't know about between now and Thursday's game? What's their counter to what the Knicks have done here? They don't have one. And somebody brought this up in the chat, and you could fire in on the YouTube chat. You can fire in if you want to call into the show. We have the option to do both. We'll take both. Dyson Daniels is your leading scorer. You got a whole lot of problems. Great point there by our guy with the Duke emoji. It's a great, great point. Now, the deal is simple for the Knicks. Go win the series in 6. And you know why tonight was an even better night? Tonight was an even better night because you got some fantastic cooperation from the Philadelphia 76ers. My fear with this first-round series was that the Knicks playing with their food and messing around in Game 2 or Game 3 and Boston having an easy 5-game series, at least I thought that was going to be a 5-game series, was going to hurt them down the road. Well, Philly is a 10.5-point underdog. Went into Boston. Quentin Grimes is hitting shots, and Bede looked pretty good. Maxey took the game over late, and Philadelphia ended up winning by double digits. So guess what? The Celtics got to go play a Game 6. Just like the Knicks on Thursday night, got to go and play a Game 6. And I have to imagine NBC is salivating over the idea of Saturday night having the Knicks win, having the Celtics win, and they can have a game go on Saturday night between those two, and we get the second round started. But that's got to be the mindset now for Mike Brown. Hey, guys, we faced adversity. We had a whole lot of finger pointing from people in the media. We had a whole lot of finger pointing when people in our city. We went over the narratives and the diatribes less than a week ago as the Knicks were down 2-1 in this series, as they lost back-to-back games where you're wondering how in the world did they down 2-1 in this series. They answered the bell. Now you got to go and finish the job. Don't play with your food. Don't mess around. End this series on Thursday. And if you play the way you did on Saturday, and if you play the way you did tonight, then it's a wrap. And there is a certain Knicks -1.5 series bet that your boy would like to catch on Thursday night. So I am throwing that into the existence. I am throwing that into the stratosphere that we sit here today, trying to will a Knicks in 6 beautiful cash money ticket home to roost. And I even brought the Mets some good luck today. You know, I bet the Mets. I told anybody who's willing to listen, I go, Met Nick moneyline parlay. Mets do to win. Littell stinks for the Nationals. Bichette hit the home run. They scored a ton of runs. They at least allow Mendoza to relax for a day or two. Wonderful. Good for Carlos Mendoza. Good for the New York Mets. They beat the Nationals. No, I was asked on Sports Night, does this mean this is the start of turnaround? I'm like, well, guys, let me see the Mets hit for a week and then maybe come back to me. Let's cool the Jets on that. One win is one win. But I threw that into the parlay equation. Should have added the Yankees as third leg. How about my guy, Cam Schlittler? Whoo! Smoking. How about the 1-2 punch of Ben Rice and Aaron Judge? Smoking. Smoking. Bednar's defense has got to tighten it up. My goodness, I feel bad. Bednar, they don't want to play defense for you, buddy boy. But anytime you could go and beat Jacob deGrom, you know that's a quality win. And Yankees are humming. They are off to an outstanding start. Nobody in the American League is playing any good baseball. And, you know, the Yankees should be in a position where they go and run and hide, hopefully, all summer long. Will that be the case? Probably not. But this is a really good New York sports night. Fired up to talk to y'all. And one more note before we hit the calls and we hit the comments. We can forget about Cora now for the rest of the year. I don't blame Cora. Cora basically is saying, hey, I'm getting paid $7 million. Why am I going to walk into a job in April or May? I would have made the call. Dombrowski did. Would have made the call. But unfortunately for Met fans, there will be no Alex Cora in Queens. For Philly fans, there will be no Alex Cora in Philadelphia. And we get Donnie Baseball. And for the time being, it is the last stand for Carlos Mendoza. Got to start winning games, but you're not going to be the manager. Simple as that. All right, we lead it off. Mo joins us in the leadoff spot, like Soriano in his prime. What's up, Mo?
Hey, JJ, what's going on, man?
Mo, always a pleasure, man. What's up, dude?
I mean, You kind of hit all the points, man. I mean, there's nothing to say about like this Knicks win other than they're just better than this fucking Hawks team. I mean,
Significantly better, Mo.
it's
Significantly
just
better.
there's nobody, and I said this last time after game one, and Atlanta won 2 games by 1 point. In the other 3 games, the Knicks absolutely just killed them. Just like in every aspect of the game, there's no one on their offense that scares you. Dyson Daniels, yeah, being a leading scorer is it's not ideal for that team, and also CJ McCollum has definitely come down to earth. You kind of touched up on this, JJ, as well, but Cat has been awesome. Obviously, Brunson was awesome. JJ, OG Anunoby has completely outplayed Jalen Johnson during the
By a
series.
significant margin. And listen, that's no surprise. Anunoby Mo is a really, really good player.
He's
That's why the
awesome.
Knicks paid him big money after they made that trade with the Toronto Raptors. And that's why, from an offensive standpoint, he can't get lost. I think it's very important to get him involved. I think it's very important to kind of make sure he's getting his touches, let him operate from three, make sure he's not lost within the offense. But that's the Knicks at their best, establishing Cat, getting contributions from Anunoby, and then it's just going to make life that much easier on Jalen Brunson.
And his offensive game has gotten so much better, OG, over the last couple of years. You can tell, like he pops these mid range jumpers now. His corner three was always good, but now it's really good. It's almost automatic. Alvarado, your boy, came in and
Mo,
just
he's been great the last two
he was
games, dude.
awesome.
Been great.
He was awesome. Even a little bit of Tyler Kolek talking shit on the sideline when Kaminga came over there. That was kind of funny. But the team's humming right now. I think it's safe to say that they they should and probably will win this series. And I'm just really I'm really proud of the way they've kind of bounced back the last 2 games,
No,
and
they've
not
shown
only
some
just
balls,
beating
Mo.
them,
Mo, they've shown
but
some balls and they've flexed. That's the
they
way you would
flex. Yeah,
describe it. They have
yeah,
flexed in these 2 games. They haven't been close wins. They haven't been nail biters. No, they've been take no prisoner type of games. Beautiful to see.
yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah. And it's awesome. And one last point. I'm also a Yankees fan, so I'll throw in a Yankees point here. Um, I don't remember JJ watching a pit even when Garrett Cole like kind of came and signed here. I don't remember as a Yankees fan, and I'm young. I'm like only 26, 27 years old. I don't remember like me running to the TV to watch a pitcher more than Cam Schlittler in my life. This guy is such he makes pitching look so easy, and seeing this guy pitch every fifth day in the way that he dominates hitters on a every 5 days, the last basically from the Red Sox game on, from like the playoffs last year, it's been a treat. And he's kind of been, in my opinion, him and uh I forgot the Mets pitcher, the young Mets pitcher, his
McLean.
name,
McLean.
McLean. Yeah, they've both been really, must watch TV for baseball fans in New York the
Well,
last few
Mo,
weeks.
they're tremendous talents. Good call. Good start to the show. It's funny because Clemens in '01 was unhittable for the Yankees. He had an amazing season. CC in '09 was really good. But from a dominant standpoint, listen, Cole, this is going to get lost in the shuffle because the Yankees sucked in 2023. But Cole was amazing in 2023. But Schlittler, the fact that he has turned into this, it's an amazing, amazing plus for the Yankees. To have Schlittler's emergence within the staff and Rice's emergence within the lineup. Hey, we have been waiting for years for big time development from the Yankee farm system. Well, Rice and Schlittler, a month into the year, are playing like all stars. That's what they look like. Our guy Bradley is up next. Brad, my boy, take it away.
How about those Knicks, brother?
Hey, easy
Yeah,
peasy, bro. Like taking candy from a baby. You know
yep,
what I mean?
bingo. Has to be that way. Continue on to Game 6. Yeah, Jalen Brunson, becoming Superman tonight. We needed that from him. It's been taking some time for him to get going. I would really encourage to see what we saw from Brunson. Carl Anthony Towns. One more can I say too about OG Anunoby? That guy is just a freaking unbelievable player, man. I'm so happy he's on our team. Um, what was I gonna say? Yeah, if Steve McCollum too, he dropped back down to earth. It's just like they just don't have any answers to for Cat. It's just like keep feeding the ball to Cat and like let him just do his business and get to the rim. Like, come on, stick to that game plan.
Well, it worked out great, and it really set a tone in this game because early on you could just see, all right, what is the Knick offense going to be? And it was like, okay, instead of Cat being at the 3-point line. Dish here, dish there, back cut here, back cut there, because you knew Quinn Snyder was going to adjust to that. The Knicks said, okay, here's what we're going to do. Cat getting a block. Let's see if they can guard you. Newsflash, they couldn't.
Yeah,
they couldn't.
Can't.
And the minute they started throwing doubles, then all of a sudden those shots from three became a lot easier and a lot more wide open. That's why you saw Anunoby get going. And then second half of the game, when you got Brunson playing like that, that's quintessential Brunson. And it's not him forcing the issue. It's not him taking bad shots. No, this is Jalen Brunson playing within the offense and doing what he does best.
When he plays like that, it's like a cheat code, like in a video game. It's just like literally like you have no shot to to match that and that with that talent. I want to touch on base too with Cam Schiller. I'm over the moon on this guy. I mean, I think he's going to be. I think both him and Rice are going to make the All-Star team this year. They keep playing the way they do, and it's just like when you go up against Jacob deGrom, who's been like one of the best pitchers in baseball over the last 10 years or whatever it's been. It's like wow, this guy can go up against one of the best, and he can go toe for toe. And I'm so happy this guy's on my team, man. And we're gonna get Cole back, we're gonna get Rodon back, and it's just this is just gonna be a filthy.
Well, listen, Brad, we're at a point now with this Yankee group. If not now, then when? Appreciate it as always. Not now, then when? The American League stinks. They have the best rotation in baseball. They got this great 1-2 punch. If not now, when? At the very least, you better be in the American League. Now, it's a big night when I could get a special guest to join us here in the live stream. And I went on his show 24 hours ago, and I said, not for nothing. I go, Zach Gelb, national radio host, star, has got his own thing going now. I'll let him plug all his brilliance. I said, you haven't been on the show. This needs to happen. He goes to Game 5. Zach, by the way, I don't want to pay for your tickets because they'd be way too expensive. I saw the seats were really good. But you are more than welcome because I always like to give people shit when they're bad luck. I can't say you're bad luck with that performance tonight, buddy boy. Well done.
Yeah, I have been in some bad performances. I was there last year for Eastern Conference Finals Game 1 where everyone was high-fiving after they thought the Halliburton shot didn't go in, but then it did go in. That was a performance tonight where, as a sports fan, don't get me wrong, there is nothing better when you think your team's going to lose and then you find a way to pull a rabbit out of the hat. But there is nothing like just going to a game and having no stress and it just being a party. But as good as tonight was, you got to go finish this out in 6. If they play with their food, I still think they would get a Game 7 victory, but then all bets are off and you don't know what's going to happen. But really, I look at the game outside of a little bit of back and forth in the first quarter. Hart got them going, and then Cat was aggressive, and then Brunson was just magnificent in the second half.
So let me ask you a question because you do national topics, so obviously you're diving in all these NBA series. Were you worried about the Knicks when they were down 2-1? My feeling was I'm pissed. This, to me, is a more bigger picture warning sign for later series. But I still was pretty confident they'd come back and win this series against the Hawks. I mean, I bet them in Game 4. I thought they'd win this Game 5. And now I'm at a point where I'm going to be pissed off, to your point, if they don't go and wrap this baby up in 6. But did you watch that Game 3, Zach, and say to yourself, wow, I think they might lose this series?
I didn't think they were going to lose the series, but I was like you, that you wonder with how lethargic it was in Game 3 and how they just choked it in Game 2, if this was going to come back to bite them later on in the postseason. And I know Boston lost tonight, but I'm assuming Boston's still going to get through and the Knicks are going to get through, and then it's going to be a rematch of last year. And I'll tell you this right now, Mikal Bridges has been terrible, and he had nothing offensively tonight. They didn't need him. And we all remember last year, the two great games that he had in games 1 and 2 defensively and the stops late and the brilliance. Mikal Bridges offensively needs to get going up against the Boston Celtics. I know he's unbelievable up against Brown and Tatum, and his defense is probably going to be a bigger story, but he can't have these no-shows offensively like he had tonight.
Well, he's been a liability, and thankfully in this Hawks series, it hasn't mattered too much because you've gotten Karl Anthony Towns going. You've gotten OG Anunoby going. You had Alvarado go and step up and give you offense. Clarkson steps up and gives you offense. Out of all the great things you saw today, if I had to say, Zach Gelb, you're sitting in Madison Square Garden tonight and you were there, what was the biggest positive takeaway you would have from this Game 5 win, if there was one in particular?
I would say Cat's aggressiveness. And I hesitate because you see it inconsistently, and there will be stretches where he's super aggressive, and then there are just series or games where you just don't see that Cat, and everyone gets on Cat and they say trade him. But just the way that he bullied tonight, Atlanta, I hope is a confidence builder that you see that continue over into Boston. But that was something early on in the game that Cat said, this game is over. And there was I think it was up against Boston last year. He did something similar too. There are just games where he shows you the player that he's capable of. And even tonight, it wasn't his best statistical performance, but I love the aggressiveness that he showed early.
Well,
in the
Zach,
game.
they can't guard him.
Yeah.
See, that's the problem. They should be going to Cat as much as humanly possible. And the difference between this game and what you saw on Saturday, he was working his magic passing the ball. They had the back cuts going. He's standing at the three-point line, and he's filling up the stat sheet. Quinn Snyder adjusted to that, and Mike Brown wisely said, all right, big boy, get in a low block, go take him. They signed Tony Bradley off the street. He can't guard you. Let's get going here. And, dude, it's no coincidence. All of a sudden, the floor opens up, and Anunoby's getting better looks, and Jalen's getting better looks because you're dominating inside.
And I did laugh a little bit because, to your point, they can't guard Cat. And I like when a player shows emotion and he starts barking at the other player and flexing the chest muscles. But it is funny to me how it looks like a high school kid up against a middle school kid, and you still have Cat that is celebrating and barking in the faces of the Atlanta Hawks players.
Okay, now are we still in the same boat with this Knicks team? Finals or bust? Because that's where I was at the beginning of the year. I understand that the odds within the Eastern Conference changed, and Detroit comes out of nowhere and has this great regular season. Now Detroit's on the brink; they might be out of the playoffs in 24 hours. And Zach, I do think, to your point, we're going to get Celtics and Knicks. It's going to be the series, and I think the winner of that series is going to go to the NBA Finals. I don't give a rat's ass that Jason Tatum's back. This is the time for this Knicks group. They've been together. They've played together. Like, now or never. Like, this has got to be the year, in my opinion, they get to the NBA Finals. Finals or bust for this group.
No question, it's finals or bust, especially with what happened with Tom Thibodeau and them getting rid of him. And it does feel, especially looking like the Pistons are going to go down with them being down 3-1 to the Magic, it does feel as if that next round, assuming it's Knicks and Celtics, is going to be the Eastern Conference Finals, even though it is the second round. But with that being said, last year after the Knicks beat Boston, everyone here in New York thought they were going to go beat Indiana.
Indiana, be careful with Indiana, though. Indiana's got balls.
You can't count your chickens before they hatch. But yes, with how weak the East is this year, I heard you right before I came on. You said with the Yankees in the AL, if not now, then when? Well, if not now, then when for the New York Knicks? And this is another thing. The Knicks were a joke of a franchise for so long. And Leon Rose has done an unbelievable job with this organization and bringing back to life. But there's been moments in New York sports where you're just happy a team is there. Like when the Mets got to the World Series, you're just happy they were there. And that was a series that early on, they really blew it. And you go, oh, they'll get back. For the Knicks, this has been a core that I think everyone's past, just happy. Sure, it's a lot better now than what it was, for 20 years. But after what happened last year, and they got the great series, went up against the Celtics, then blew it up against the Pacers. You then set higher expectations with getting Tom Thibodeau out, and you bring in Mike Brown. You tinker with the bench a little bit. Yeah, there's no question. If they don't get to the finals this year, I'm not saying they'll never be able to do it with this core, but you do start to think to yourself, was that a year ago maybe the apex for this group?
Okay. they make the finals. I hope we're living in this world. And either Oklahoma City or San Antonio staring you in the face. You mentioned, hey, you never know when you're getting back, and it's very true, and there's no givens, and you can't assume you're running it back next year and getting to the NBA Finals. That said, the Knicks will be a sizable underdog against the Thunder. And they would be, I know they beat San Antonio and played well against San Antonio. They also would be an underdog against the Spurs if they matched up with them in the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
They get there, still a satisfying season to you? For me, it would be.
It's still successful, but once you get there, you better win it all. Like I remember with the Rangers, it was inconceivable to me, even though they had a lot of great teams, right? They had that team that lost to the Devils in the Eastern Conference Finals a few years before that. But when the Rangers got to the Cup final up against the Kings and how they blew the first 2 games of that series, you sat there at the end and I'm like, how could I be upset? Oh, they'll get back. And they got back to the conference finals up against Tampa years later with a new core, obviously up against the Panthers. But look at now what the Rangers have done. They were very successful for over a decade with 2 different goaltenders, but now they've been in a miserable spot for the last 2 years. So you never know when you're going to get back. Yeah, there's no question it would still be viewed as a successful season, and they would be an underdog up against OKC and the Spurs. But if they're there, why can't they win it? It's not like I have all the respect in the world for OKC. I have all the respect in the world for Wembanyama and the Spurs, but it's not as if the Knicks couldn't get the job done if they are there, because they have a team that, if they're there, would have beat Boston 2 years in a row, and we all know how the Celtics are viewed in the NBA.
The crazy thing about last year's finals, and you know this because you were doing the shows talking about it day in and day out, that Halliburton injury in Game 7 is like the ultimate what if. I mean, I know Oklahoma City ended up winning that game going away. Indiana got off to a great start. Halliburton was playing like a man on fire the entire postseason. They might have won that game. We'll never know, you know?
Yeah, no, it is. I still thought OKC was the better team.
They were.
But,
yeah, they were.
But Indiana, there's something in sports where you don't have the most talent, but you can't put a value on team chemistry, and that's what Indiana had. It kind of reminded me, now they had some really damn good players, but you look at the Pistons when they won that championship in the early 2000s. Now, I get it, they had Rip Hamilton, Chauncey Billups, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, but it wasn't as if there was a lot of elite players. I know the Mavericks had Dirk, but the Heat were more talented. There are just teams in sports where the chemistry's there, and you find a flaw with another team, and you're able to exploit it. Like, look at the Giants who beat the Patriots the first time in the Super Bowl. Like, it was inconceivable that the Patriots would only be held to 14 points in that game, but that pass rush was unbelievable. So, yeah, it is fair to with that what if, but man, SGA and Williams last year for OKC just would have been a tough out.
Now, you're a big Met fan, as we know. How disappointed were you hearing earlier today that Alex Cora is going to be taking a year to count his $7 million and probably travel the world, maybe run a marathon or 2, spend a little extra family time? Were you starting, Zach, to try to paint a picture of Alex Cora being in the dugout for the Mets this year? Or you never see that happening?
No, I never thought it was going to happen. In hockey, right, coaches get fired and then they're with the team in a week or
Tortorella.
2.
I mean, Tortorella does it all the time. Yeah, he knows.
And like Pete DeBoer's now on his 14th team in hockey. So that stuff happens in hockey. In baseball, Cora's fired, reset, get the lay of the land, see how everyone's going to be at the end of the year. I know he has the relationship with Dombrowski, so that's why Dombrowski makes the phone call. But you've had 2 managers now fired. I still don't think Mendoza is going to get fired just yet. If you're telling me,
if he didn't get fired already, Zach, they were going to fire. If you're getting fired after that Rocky series, right? That's the time to do it on an off day.
Yeah,
if you make it to the end, it almost feels like you got a little bit more wiggle room if that's the case.
Yeah, and I understand the Rockies are viewed to be a cupcake, and clearly the Mets struggled, and they see him again in a little bit, and they got some cupcakes on the schedule. If you continue to lose 7 out of 8, then it's going to be to a point where they're definitely going to fire him. But if you're asking me through May 6th or May 7th, do I still think he's the manager next week? Yeah, I still do think Mendoza will be the manager.
Okay. Historically bad start for the Mets. Terrible start for the Phillies. One team made the managerial change. Thompson out, Mattingly in. The Mets, at least for the time being, status quo. I will let you now make the case for one of the two. who is more likely to turn their season around? Mets or
Phillies. Now,
Ooh,
now,
okay.
didn't the Phillies, when they fired Girardi, they got to the
They
World
went to the World
Series?
Series with Thompson. That is correct.
So if you're asking me right now, do I think the Mendoza firing is imminent? No. The Phillies already made the change, so that's why I think that they'll have a chance to get that jolt of energy. Both these teams stink. Both these teams are chasing. And the problem with the Mets, as a fan that is a partial season ticket holder, even when you're off to a slow start, it's tough to still feel as if the season's over. But we're not even technically in May yet, and I just don't see how this team turns it around because they're just not built the right way, and they have no heart. And you could be bad. We've seen teams, Nationals, Braves, get off to ugly starts and then go to the mountaintop and end up winning it all. I just have zero belief in the heart and the fight of this team this early in the season.
Can I point something out to you? You mentioned having the season tickets. So there's an affinity that you have with certain players. They transform their entire team in the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, some moves debatable, other moves not so debatable. You want to tell me getting out of Brandon Nimmo's contract, despite the hot start, is probably going to be a long-term good decision? You're right about that. The problem is you brought in a guy who's an absolute fossil and has nothing left in Marcus Semien. Alonso, you want to tell me that contract's not going to age well? You're probably right. But, there was this sort of, tie-in to these guys. Did you feel in the offseason, Zach, hey, with what happened over the final 3 months, I don't care. Get me new guys. I don't care about the heartstrings with some of these homegrown Mets. Because I think for a whole lot of season ticket holders, they look at this team. You mentioned it's a slow start. We know that. But there's no identity. You're trying to figure out, okay, what is the identity? What is this team right now?
So I had no problem with them getting rid of McNeil. I wasn't the biggest McNeil fan.
I feel like every Met fan wanted McNeil out.
Nimmo, I liked Nimmo a lot, but I thought it was time to divorce Nimmo. And I understand now how it's perceived with Diaz and Pete. But in the moment, I thought they were going to lose Pete. I never even thought they were going to, in a million years, they were going to lose Edwin Diaz. Losing both made me say, okay, where is this team heading? And I thought, bringing in Devin Williams, we just saw what he did with the Yankees a year ago. So I know they made that move before they lost Edwin Diaz. And Polanco as the replacement for Pete. Polanco's a fine player. He's been a solid player, but he's not the production of Pete Alonso. I'm always fine giving guys more years early, especially with how much money this owner has, and having to deal with that contract later. The Pete one bothered me, but I was even surprised Pete was back last year with how that with how that did play out. So it's not stunning, but you're right. There's no identity with this team, and the general manager or whatever, president of baseball operations, is vastly overrated. After they got to the NLCS, he tried to run his luck with the rotation and thought he was like a mastermind there, and the rotation,
killed him, Zach. Not the lineup. The pitching killed him over the final 3 months.
Killed him, and the bullpen was rough to watch last year. And here's another thing. You look at their youngsters, where when they got to the NLCS, then the following season they ran it back with Beatty and with Mauricio, who was on the team. Acuna at the time was on the team. Vientos. And there's just been no consistency there. Can one of those guys break out and be a star? It kind of reminds me of the Rangers when you had Lafreniere and Capo Caco, and I know Hito had all those concussions, but no one ever just went and took the baton and was that star. I know you saw a little bit with Lafreniere in the postseason, but there's been consistency problems there. It's amazing how they ran it back with those youngsters a year ago, and you don't feel confident with any of them now, 2 years later.
Okay. I'll let you take your pick here. Who you'd rather buy stock in? Not just for 2026. Draft's done. We know what these teams are going to look like for the most part. This year, next year, year after that. More bullish on the Giants or the Jets?
I really love the Jets draft.
Wow. I'm surprised by that. I thought you were going to tell me the Giants. Okay.
I really love the Jets draft. The problem with the Jets is I think the coach stinks.
Well, and the Jets.
Yeah,
That's the biggest problem.
They still got to get, like, not that Dart's going to definitely be a stud, but they still got to get a quarterback. But they got 3 first-round picks. Like, my biggest takeaway from the draft from a national standpoint, right? And I try not to bring up New York when you're doing the national unless if you have to.
But let's be honest on this, Zach. I know you probably didn't want to. It was because it wasn't like a crazy quarterback draft. Both teams having all of these picks, they really did. It was a big headline.
Put it this way.
Was.
I know you were more Reese over Bailey. I was more Bailey over Reese.
Yeah.
At 16, I love Kenyon Sadiq in the draft process. And as a Patriot fan, right, they draft Sadiq, and I'm like, I didn't want to see that because I was a big fan of Kenyon Sadiq. And then a lot of people thought the Jets were going to get Omar Cooper at 16. They go trade back into the first round and snag him. I thought that was a brilliant move. The Giants get the benefit of the doubt because of Harbaugh, and you got Malik Neighbors coming off the injury. But the defense, they have a lot of talent there. So, man, I want to say the Jets because of the draft, but since they don't have the quarterback yet, right now I do have to buy more stock into the Giants.
See, I would Giants because of the coach. That to me is the biggest game changer because they now have a program builder in Harbaugh.
But the one thing I will say with Harbaugh, and I'm a big John and Jim Harbaugh fan. John at the end with the Ravens choked a lot of leads, never got Lamar to a Super Bowl.
It's fair.
Like, there is part of me now where, like, Belichick at the end, and I never thought I'd be criticizing Belichick. The guy won me 6 Super Bowls.
No, but at the end, it was time. It was bad.
But at the end, I was like, okay, they need to get rid of him. The thing with Harbaugh with the Giants, the goal's not to win a Super Bowl. The goal is to get back to stability and not be a joke. That's why Harbaugh was the right hire for the Giants. But if you are successful for 2 years, then the fan is going to want to see the ultimate success. And I'm just not sure if Harbaugh wins a Super Bowl anymore in the NFL.
You know what? That's a reasonable take. I can't fight you on it. And that's why I said, listen, despite Harbaugh being a slam dunk for the Giants, which he is, Zach, I totally get the Ravens saying, and any Raven fan in my life is like, dude, he's got to go. Like, we appreciate what he did. He was great for us. You mentioned the collapses. The Steeler game in Week 18 was the coup de grace. I mean, my goodness. After that, it was like this. There's no way he could be coaching the team next year. You can't have the talent that they've had. You can't have the Lamar window just squandered. And I think change will be good for John Harbaugh. I think it'll be good for the Ravens. And I think it'll be good for the Giants. But, Zach, they've been so bad for so long. Go build a program, dude.
Yeah, no.
I'll worry about playoff games in January when the Giants are getting there year in and year out.
Put it this way. Get to Thanksgiving and have the games mean something.
Have a season. Yeah.
Because how many times in New York do we sit here and you make the joke, it's not even Halloween yet, and both those teams' football seasons are over. And that's the thing. If we are sitting here at Halloween this year and both these teams' seasons are over and you have no desire to watch it, I would actually be surprised because I don't think the Jets are going to be that good. But they got young players. And the biggest pressure on the Jets this year is the coach. There's no doubt about it. Glenn has been a disaster. And the arrogance at the podium, he needs to stop acting like he's Belichick. Go win some games first. But for the Giants, I'm not saying they're going to go make the playoffs this year.
They're going to be, remember
they
I
should
said
be a
this,
gritty
Zach?
watch.
They're going to be a very trendy playoff pick this year, the Giants.
Yeah.
Because people are going to look at your coach and your team, and they're going to say, wow, look at what Vrabel did going to New England. Harbaugh could do the same thing with the Giants. Here's why I think the Giants are going to be better, competitive, in the hunt. You'll see them in the hunt.
Yeah.
Dallas is going to be really good.
I think Dallas wins at least 10 games
Philly.
this year.
I'm out on Washington. I do not like Washington at all. I didn't think it was stink.
So this time last year, that was my big take. I said Washington will not make the playoffs.
It was a good take. I agreed.
And I do think, though, that drafting styles, they needed him. If Daniels is healthy, they will be a tough team, but I'm not going to sit here and say they're a lock to go back to the postseason. But that division, even though the Eagles won't have A.J. Brown, they have Mekhi Lemon and Devontae Smith, and they have Dallas Goedert back. The defense is still incredible, and Howie Roseman is one of the best executives in sports. The Eagles are always going to be a contender. I think the Cowboys definitely could win 10 games this year. with the moves that they made. We'll see what happens with Pickens. The Giants are going to be better, and the Commanders can't be worse than they were a year ago. But you look at the entirety of the NFC. This is why I can't say the Giants are going to make the playoffs this year. Not only their own division, the NFC North from top to bottom, stacked. The NFC South stinks, but one of those teams go to the playoffs. And then the NFC West, you have 3 dominant teams. You could, like, the Giants could go 9-8, 10-7, and still miss the postseason this year. That's on the table.
Not wrong. One more for you. Your team. You mentioned Washington as the classic team a year ago that was going to fall back to the pack. I felt the exact same way. I bet them under. I bet them to miss the playoffs. I was all over it. Your team found ways to win like crazy last year. The emergence of May, the road to the Super Bowl. Hey, you don't apologize for it. You got there.
Sure.
But, the Texans and their problems, the Chargers and their problems, getting Jarrett Stidham, and they end up losing to Seattle this offseason. And it looks like A.J. Brown's going to be a Patriot June 1st. This whole Rossini-Vrabel thing. Listen, insane. I could go and do 2 hours on all of the diatribes between Spotify playlists, where these photos came from.
Our child being named Mike.
Absolute insanity.
The media being afraid because they're friends with Diana Rossini to talk about it.
They're going to take a big L on that now. They're going to take it. Listen.
How about Dan Le Batard? Dan Le Batard crying one day. Oh, I don't want to talk about my friend, but the minute Jamel Hill says something about Mike Vrabel, he's all over Mike Vrabel.
Well, and here's the problem, Zach. Fraud. It is a story because he's the coach of the New England Patriots, and you're the lead reporter.
And here's the other thing that people, it's amazing to me, like they can't understand the difference. She resigned, but her job is to break news and be credible. Her reputation's shot. Mike Vrabel's job is to win football games.
And it is a double standard. We acknowledge it is a double standard, but it's an unfair double standard, but his job description is different than her job description.
Yeah, like if I saw Shams Charania at the Knicks game, if he was in a hot tub with Caitlin Clark, it would be a story. All right? It would be a problem for Shams Charania. But for Mike Vrabel, it's kind of crazy to the level that it's got to, where TMZ is following him around, but they wouldn't break the story originally, TMZ, but they're following him at the airport the other day. Photos of him in Utah and the team. I think it was a farce, right? He's going to counseling for one day, but it wasn't on day 1 or day 2
well,
of the
draft.
draft.
Well, the problem was you couldn't have Krebs say anything because of all of his troubles.
Yeah.
So he couldn't exactly come out and say, oh, this is not how we behave as an NFL head coach, because it's like, Robert, come on.
Yeah, and maybe Kraft is like, oh, well, at least now the attention there is on Vrabel instead of my issues from all those years ago. But I think Vrabel's going to be the coach.
He's not going anywhere.
He's not going to resign. They'd be fools to fire him. And I really don't think it's going to be that big of a deal in the locker room.
Well, that's what I was going to get at. Is this going to be something that you think is like hovering over the Patriots all season long?
I don't think so. And another thing is, people go, oh, well, how is he going to be able to lead men in the locker room? Like, don't you think there are, I'm not saying it's right to cheat on your wife. It's not. But don't you think there's some players in the locker room?
I'm sure it's happened.
I'm not saying, well, I'm going to say.
Not trying to judge, but it's happened.
I'm not even going cheating, but don't you think there's some players in the locker room that are like, hey, coach, you dog, this is kind of funny. People like afraid to say that, but I'm sure there are a group of players that are going, hey, coach, this is kind of funny that we're talking about your sex life in the locker room now.
Well, listen, bottom line for him, get your team ready to play.
Yeah.
That's my biggest advice to Mike Vrabel. Get your team ready to play and you'll be all right.
And even though this team lost Diggs, they're going to be getting A.J. Brown. The line should be better. Now, Will Campbell was fine last year up until the fact that he got hurt, and then he was miserable the rest of the way. Milton Williams is great.
Are you going to move him to guard?
I don't think so this year.
Okay, they're going to give him one more year at tackle. Okay.
I don't know what they're going to do with Lomu, the pick that they had in the first round. I think they could just use him as a swing tackle this year. But Will was fine up until he got injured, right around Thanksgiving, and then he was a disaster after that. They could eventually move him to right tackle, or they could move him into left guard, and that would be fine with me. But I don't think they're going to do it yet. But Drake May's been unbelievable his first 2 years. They got a good run game. Henderson should probably take a big step next year. Stevenson finally held on to the football after Buffalo. The tight end from Notre Dame is 6'7". He better be a force. You would hope so. But this defense is damn good with Milton Williams and Christian Gonzalez, and they bring in Kevin Byard. I'm not. I don't think they're going back to the Super Bowl.
You're not feeling this will be Washington part 2. You think you're back in the playoffs?
They should be a 10-win team, bare minimum this year. Yeah.
All right, buddy. Final one. This series over on Thursday. It better be. I don't like that hesitation. That already scares me.
Because
I was looking for some confidence here.
I want to say so. I want to say that it is. But wouldn't it be very Knicks to play with their food in Game 6 and then have a dominant effort in Game 7? But you know what?
Betting line says so. Only minus 1.5.
It's only 1.5.
That's a little frightening, to be honest with you.
I didn't love that tonight was only 6.5. I thought you'd at least see like an 8.5.
Well, they jacked it up a little. The thing is, these lines are kind of predetermined in a way. So that's why I don't know how much they can kind of fluctuate.
So it's
the
1.5.
1.5 is what I saw before we started. Yeah.
I don't like that number.
Nah, it's not a good number.
But you know what?
But my eyes tell me the Knicks are going to win.
Game 2, the Hawks shouldn't have won. This series should be over. I never am confident, but yeah, I do think that they're going to win. Skeptically, I think they're going to win Game 6.
Zach Gelb, where can we find you, buddy boy?
YouTube.com/@365SportsYT. That's where you could get me. I'm live Mondays through Fridays from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern time via YouTube, and then wherever you can find your podcast at The Zach Gelb Show. You can follow me Twitter and Instagram at Zach Gelb, and then on TikTok at The Zach Gelb Show.
My man, hope to see you at some point at the Yankee Stadium at Citi Field for a couple of beers. Actually, more importantly, the golf course.
Well, you know what's funny?
That needs to happen.
Oh, my irons have been horrendous.
Well, let's get them going.
Horrendous.
Let's go.
JJ actually right now is 2 blocks away from my apartment.
I know. I would have had the second mic set up. We would have gotten nice and cozy in the screen. So we would have set you up, boom, here, there, and everywhere, you know?
Well, it's great. Now I can just log off and go right to bed. So that works too.
You like the sound of that. All right, Zach, thanks for a few minutes, man.
You got it, JJ. Thanks.
Gang, that's going to do it for this live YouTube. We had some fun with Zach Gelb, a little all over the place, which is good. A little sports potpourri after this Knick blowout in game number 5. We'll be back Thursday night. Hopefully, we're talking about this series coming to a close between the Knicks and the Celtics, not a Game 7. Game 1 Saturday sounds great. Sounds great. Saturday, Sunday. Game 7, not so great. Enjoy your evening. We'll chat morning, whatever the hell it is. I don't even know. All I know is JJ's out. Be good, everybody.